Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We are working on Troilus and Cressida, and we get to hear from Ulysses again today in Act 2, Scene 3. We're almost done with this scene, and what has been going on has mostly been taking place outside of Achilles' tent in the Greek camp. And remember, Hector from the Trojan side had sent a challenge to the Greeks and said, sort of send me your best soldier and I'll fight him, because Hector's getting a little bit bored. And everybody sort of knew that this was a challenge for Achilles, but they've decided that instead they want Ajax to be the one that goes to fight Hector, because Achilles really is their best. They don't want Hector to beat him because that's going to be bad for morale and for the strength of their army. But if they send Ajax and lose him, at least they still have Achilles in their back pocket. And if they send Ajax and he wins, then it'll knock Achilles off of his high horse a little bit, hopefully. So anyway, a whole bunch of them have shown up outside Achilles' tent, and we're talking Ulysses and Nestor and Agamemnon and pretty much the whole crew, and Ajax is there too. So there's been little side discussions about this and that and the other thing, and the Grecian elders, the Grecian commanders, Agamemnon, Nestor, Ulysses, are starting to build up Ajax and starting to say things like, you're just as good as Achilles, you're just as strong as Achilles, you're just as good a fighter as Achilles, all of this sort of stuff. And yesterday when we heard from Ulysses, he went so far as to say, like, Ajax had offered to go in and try to get Achilles to come outside. And they're like, no, you shouldn't ever have to go to him. He should come to you. And after that whole speech, Ajax is like getting really full of himself. And he's like, yeah, I can go in there and I could beat him up. I could get him to come out, like all this sort of stuff. And they realize that maybe they're taking this a little bit too far. So they start talking. It's like they're talking amongst themselves, but loud enough that Ajax can hear, and in close enough earshot of Ajax that they intend him to hear. And they're like, well, at least he's not envious like Achilles is, and he's not this like Achilles is, and in this respect he's better than Achilles. And wouldn't it be a shame if all of a sudden Ajax got too proud for himself and all that sort of thing, got too full of himself and blah, 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 blah. And Ulysses finally says, thank the heavens, Lord, thou art of sweet composure. Praise him that got thee, she that gave thee suck. Fame be thy tutor, and thy parts of nature thrice famed beyond all erudition. But he that disciplined thy arms to fight, let Mars divide eternity in twain and give him half. And for thy vigor, bull-bearing Milo, his addition yield to sinewy Ajax. I will not praise thy wisdom, which, like a bourne, a pale, a shore, confines thy spacious and dilated parts. Here's Nestor, instructed by the antiquary times. He cannot but be wise. But pardon, Father Nestor, were your days as green as Ajax, and your brain so tempered? You should not have the eminence of him, but be as Ajax. So this is more buttering up of Ajax, but in sort of a backwards manner. He's like, thank goodness that you're a good guy, and you have this sweet composure, and your father was wonderful, and your mother was wonderful, and let's give thanks to the people who taught you. And hey, remember Milo? Milo was apparently a fighter in one of the early Olympic Games who carried a bowl around the Olympic Stadium and then ate the whole thing in one day. So he's like, that guy, give his names and titles to Ajax because he's worthy of it. And he's like, I'm not going to talk about how smart you are, but Nestor, if Nestor was as young as you are, he wouldn't be any better than you. You two would be equal, in that sort of respect. So Ajax at the end of this is feeling really good about himself, and he's like, should I call you father? And Nestor's like, yeah, you should. And they're like, okay, we don't need to stick around here and wait for Achilles anymore. We have this war that has to be fought. We have this battle that has to be fought. And here we've got Ajax. So let's take Ajax and we'll go fight a war with him, and never mind to Achilles. And then they all leave, and that's the end of Act 2, Scene 3. So Ajax has successfully been set up to be the one to go and fight Hector. He has enough of an ego, he has enough confidence now that he'll go out and do his absolute best. So yeah, that bit of plot is progressing nicely. It's been a little while since we checked in on like the whole love story side of this, but we'll get back into that a bit tomorrow. So tune in for that and we'll see what's happening with our lovers for whom this play was named, but seems sort of secondary at the moment. Anyway, come on back tomorrow for more. I'll see you then. Mwah.